Super Mario 64 holds a special place in many people's hearts, mine included, even if the game's release was before my time. I have fond memories of playing the game on my dad's PC when I was young, Xbox 360 controller in hand. It was unorthodox, but I still hold a lot of nostalgia for the game. But nostalgia isn't the only reason why people come back to it, time and time again. Nostalgia can't be the only reason why it's one of, if not the most sped-run game ever. Nostalgia isn't what makes the game so special. You turn the game on and see the face of change. Yes, I'm serious. Seeing that fully 3D model of Mario's head, more expressive than any sprite before it, greeting you with a simple hello, marked a change in the future of gaming as a whole. After you select a new game, Peach asks you to visit for some cake, not an innuendo, you dirty bastards. But it's when the camera pans down to reveal Lakitu the magic really begins. The camera flies back to reveal the iconic castle and swoops under the bridge to eventually land on one particular spot. A green pipe emerges and... Our protagonist emerges. Now, the model of Mario has aged like milk, obviously, but you have to understand that this character is not only the face of Nintendo, but pretty much gaming as a whole. So to see that blocky model hop out of the pipe with those compressed voice lines must have been mind-blowing in 1996. If there's one thing you have to get right in a 3D platformer, it's having fun controls. All that space is pointless if you don't want to traverse it. And this is where Super Mario 64 shines the brightest. Movement flows so seamlessly, it's enjoyable to just run around outside the castle, flipping and diving. For the first ever 3D Mario platformer, seeing this freedom of control is amazing. It almost feels limitless in what you can make Mario do. This is where the series staple moves like the ground pound and the wall jump are introduced, forever changing future level design for the better. If I was told to choose the one reason why Super Mario 64 succeeded as it has, it would be the controls every time. But that doesn't mean controls are the only reason why the game is acclaimed as it is today. Going through the double doors reveals the ground floor of the castle. Even if it's a small area, the sense of scale of an actual space outmatches what a 2D world map could do tenfold. Once you're inside the castle, you don't really have anywhere else to go other than this mysterious door with a blank star symbol on it. Opening it and walking inside reveals a big painting. Strange as it is, this is your first level warp to a place that needs no introduction, Bob-omb Battlefield. Everyone has heard the opening jingle that accompanies your entrance in the level. It's synonymous with the game. Once you select the blue star and are loaded in, this is where the real scale of being in a 3D environment is realised. A clear path is shown, but you don't have to go that way. Go on the platforms, see what's going on to the left. The wonder of not being locked in 2 dimensions begins with the ground itself. You'll inevitably notice the hovering red coin above the platforms, one of the many smart choices of the design of the game. These red coins, along with the 100 coin star, serve the explicit purpose of forcing you to explore the environments. You might even find some cool stuff while looking for them. However, past this red coin is low poly nightmare fuel. Thanks to its simple design, the chain chomp was really done justice in this game and also acts as a literal guard dog to a star and a red coin. After scurrying past that, you'll reach arguably the first obstacle of the game, a narrow platform that tilts. Now, people who blasted through the game hundreds of times are quick to dismiss what it serves as, but imagine you've just bought an N64, you're gonna suck ass at the game, so a mild introduction into platforming is welcome. The titular battlefield awaits you next, however the cannons are shooting bubbles. Well, it wouldn't be the last time. If you take some time to explore the area low, you'll be rewarded with some coins. Now coins are not only important for your 100 coin star, but also healing. They're one of 3 ways to heal and are the only one constantly available to you. A few rolling cannonballs serve as an entrance to the mountain to climb. As you climb up, they'll also roll down at you. Again, simple obstacles are helping the players learn the controls. It's also here where you introduce the method to a feeling, the spin and heart thingy. Run through and it will restore your health as many times as you need to. After likely getting hit a few times, this is a good place to introduce it. The player will be nearing the end of their climb when they spot the big Bob-omb. He introduces himself and initiates a fight. Considering this is Mario's first 3D outing, and bosses in 3D platformers are often the very worst parts of their respective games, it's unsurprising to say that the boss fights are very monotonous. It's the weakest link in what is otherwise a fantastic gameplay loop. Luckily, they're few and far between levels. After the boss is thrown 3 times, he explodes and unveils the very first star, normally. Collecting the star highlights a very common gripe of the game. When you collect a star, it sends you all the way back to the hub. The very next star shows a reason why. Certain stars load in specific assets relevant to them. In Star 2's case, it's an NPC who wants to race you to the top of the mountain you just committed murder at. Even though it's a necessary evil, it's undeniably frustrating. The only exception to this rule is the 100 coin star, meaning it's often paired with the red coin star for convenience and time saving. Now that you've got 1 star, you're presented with a choice: continue and bomb on battlefield, or explore a new stage. This freedom of choice exists all throughout the game. After all, you only need 70 of 120 stars to finish the game. Let's say you want to explore more environments. Well, welcome to Womp's Fortress. After loading the level and going to the first obstacle, the increased level of danger is made very apparent. There are floors that retract to reveal an instant death. Players need to be more cautious in this stage. Another example is a piranha plant that awaits just ahead. The purpose of these enemies is to introduce and incentivize the walking mechanic performed by only pushing lightly on the analog stick. Admittedly, the mechanic sees no use in high level play, and no more opportunities to see any use anywhere else unless you're really worried about falling. Anyway, once you pass the plant, you see more complex obstacles than in Bomb on Battlefield, but by no means overwhelming. Crossing the rotating platform and hopping up to the big one reveals a new boss to fight. Again, it isn't really anything complex, but does allow for some more implication of your moves, particularly your side flip, to get a swift ground pound on the Womp. Slaying it presents yet another star. Like in Bomb on Battlefield, the next star changes the assets in the level. This time, the Womp is being replaced with a mini fortress to climb and claim yet another star. There's only so much I can talk about when it comes to replaying the same level over and over again without boring the hell out of you, but it's a simplistic way Mario 64 implements its star collection system that makes it genius. Replaying the same small scale, short levels over and over again, but with slightly different goals or with new assets to use. A fantastic example of this is in Cool Cool Mountain. 1 star has you just slide down the slide to win a star, but a very obvious shortcut is made clear by a straight line of coins. However, when you need to race a penguin down the slide and try to take that same shortcut, you get refused your star for cheating. It's ultimately the same thing, sliding, but little nuances like this give the game diversity in its collection and make what should be boring, fun. And I couldn't talk about Super Mario 64 without mentioning Jolly Roger Bay for the music alone. I don't need to explain why the track is so perfect for the stage. I personally dislike the level for its heavy water focused gameplay, removing all the movement that gives 64 life, but I'd be lying if I said the music alone didn't make the level worth 100% in. When the player gets 10 stars from any source, a beam of light shines down on the centre of the room. Focusing the camera on this light while zoomed in brings Mario to a new mini level of sorts. This is where the first power-up is revealed. The game elected to replace the standard items in question mark blocks for hats unlocked through progression that last a limited time. These hats are unlocked by pressing switches found in respective spots accessed through different means. These switches are sort of reminiscent of Super Mario World. Each of these mini levels has a red coin star in them. The power-up unlocked here is the wing cap. You start the level with one already on, and are introduced to the controls. Honestly, the controls are jank as all hell, but they work. When the switch is pressed, all previously transparent red blocks are now solid and contain the power-up. Players have likely noticed a double star door upstairs. Interacting with it while having enough stars opens the door to reveal a portrait of the princess? As you approach, the portrait fades to reveal Bowser, then the floor collapses. Welcome to Bowser in the Dark World. Now, the Bowser levels are structurally different from the main levels. They're entirely based on platforming, with red coins along the way. And the first level doesn't disappoint. This stage is harder than anything the player has faced before, accompanied with an ominous soundtrack. The culmination of your learning is this stage. But by now you should have a feel for the game. After beating the obstacles laid out by the Koopa King, now is the time to face him down. This model is even worse than Mario's. It's a piece of shit. But like Mario's model, the context of this reveal is important. This was an antagonist that practically represented the role in gaming, so having the opportunity to fight him in a 3D space must have been exciting. Unsurprisingly, the fight isn't difficult or complex. It's similar to your very first boss in that you make your way behind him and throw him, but now you have to grab his tail and spin him around, then release him towards one of the spike bombs around the arena. After besting him, you'll get your first key, unlocking the basement of the castle. My reason for detailing each of the early stages is to highlight how successfully Super Mario 64 is catered to new players. Every new stage you unlock introduces you to a new mechanic or raises the difficulty to force you to learn. You learn your movement in Bomb on Battlefield, platforming in Womp's Fortress, water mechanics in Jolly Roger Bay, sliding in Snowman's Land. Then Bowser in the Dark World is there to really make sure you understand the fundamentals of the game. Future levels only become more complex, with specific mechanics or new hazards, but they all relate to everything taught by the first floor of the castle. But the game doesn't have its reputation for its ability to cater to newer players. It's more famous for the opposite side of the spectrum. Mario 64 is the most sped round platformer ever, with the only close competition being the indie game Celeste, which was built with speedrunning in mind. 64 still has hundreds of active runners today, so the obvious question is, why? I've already explained why I love the movement, but speedrunning demonstrates why visually better than I can explain. Every move you make is a choice with so many options, and sometimes it's not clear which is optimal. In speedrunning, they make 64 look like a rhythm game rather than a platformer. It's a flurry of movement but so precise in its execution. Watching top level gameplay is a mind-blowing experience for someone less familiar with the capability of Mario. It's impossible to talk about speedrunning without mentioning the game's many infamous glitches. Just look at the backwards long jump. It's the unofficial mascot of video game glitching as a whole. Despite not even being an official feature, the game wouldn't be the same without it. Nintendo is not a fan, shockingly, given that they removed it from the 3D All-Stars emulation. But the BLJ isn't the only glitch used in speedrunning. 64 is full of them. There's Bomb Clip to nab the Chain Chomp Star, Mips Clip to skip to Bowser on the Fire Sea early, Cannonless to save tying grabbing the Wall Star on Worm's Fortress, Lakitu skip to bypass his dialogue. The list could go on and on. Don't get me started on task speedruns, they do some crazy shit. It's like Mario sniffed up 10 pounds of crack with that big nose. To speedrun means to finish the game as fast as possible by any means necessary, which is why it's a match made in heaven with Mario 64. Movement is unrestricted in its application within most levels, meaning the game is a textbook example of easy to learn, hard to master. Glitching is a core part of 64's identity, another core element of speedrunning. The only way to get better at Super Mario 64 is to get faster and more efficient. Unintentionally, Nintendo created a perfect game to speedrun. The reach of Super Mario 64 doesn't stop here though. While being the most sped-run platformer of all time, it's simultaneously one of the most hacked. There's a massive array of ROM hacks for the game with websites dedicated to sharing hacks and discussion about them. Some are just simple tweaks to the game to make it more enjoyable to play through quality of life. Some are funny, like Chaos Edition, which causes random effects to happen at any time, anywhere. The effects are often interesting. Case in point,
I think now is not a great time for Pong.
But the real highlight of ROM hacks is when people make entirely new games using 64 as a base. These hacks are massively impressive, taking what 64 gives them and transforming it into an entirely new experience. Take the ROM hack simply known as Elise. A beautiful title screen is followed up by an equally amazing introductory cutscene. The artwork is stylized to, at least in my opinion, look quite similar to the paintings around the vanilla game. The cutscene introduces a genuine plot that's built up over the course of the game. Elise is very unique in its style and level structure when it comes to 64 ROM hacks. There's several entrances that split off onto more levels or connect to each other. Rather than have a standard level structure, it's like one big hub world. Now the game is relatively short, with only 20 stars to collect, but it's more than made up for in polish. There's a fully original soundtrack which is the entire length of the original 64s, which you'll be listening to now, and just look at the graphics. The environments of the game are also distinctive from each other, but the quality of them never drops. If it wasn't for the animations on the custom character model, it would be hard to tell that this is a 64 ROM hack. I'd define it as the pinnacle of short but sweet ROMs. Then there's B3313. There's 450 stars in the whole thing, completely eclipsing the original game, but the game controls where you go. You start the game and you'll notice your moveset has been altered. No long jump, spin and triple jump, and a nerf side flip. You'll also have the beta Mario 64 voice lines. When you enter the castle, the hub is the beta castle. Doors lead you to some beta versions of some Mario 64 levels. You can go through them, collect some stars. It definitely feels strange playing through levels that are so reminiscent of the original game, yet feel incomplete. I wouldn't worry though, after all this is the very tip of the iceberg. When the game really starts is when you go through some double doors and are put into a Bowser fight. Killing him grants you a red star. Collecting it transports you to a new hub with entirely new levels and secrets. It almost looks like a demonic version of the castle. Now B3313 is a massively expansive hack. So expansive that if I was to talk about everything it has to offer, I would need to dedicate an entire video to it. All you need to know is that it's probably the best ROM hack ever made. It's hard to call it a horror hack, it's more so uncomfortable. Just being in the game makes you feel uneasy. There's creepy and weird moments like here, when I entered a black void, to then enter this red space. Stepping in what appears to be a fountain made everything look normal. Like I said, this hack needs an entire video dedicated to it. Maybe I'll make it at some point. Mario 64 has left a massive impact on YouTube as a whole as well. You have animations like terminal montages, where Mario's entire characterization is based around a Mario 64 speedrun, SMG4 who uses the multitude of assets and settings from Mario 64, Memes like So Long Gay Bowser, the BLJ, and Nathaniel Scuttlebug Bandy. Obviously, speedruns which are recorded each and every day. Even if the content isn't directly based on playing the game, there's so many things people have taken or stemmed from the game. Several YouTubers base a lot of their content around this game, like for example Nathaniel Bandy and Simple Flips. Bandy doesn't post nearly as much content around the game as he did before, but he uses his second channel to post content on ROM hacks. And who could forget that iconic TikTok clock skit?
How is a clock supposed to help us? Can you please explain to me how a freaking clock is gonna help us finish this game?
Simple Flips was a speedrunner in the past, but now he hosts ROM hacking competitions based around particular themes with cash prizes, keeping the hacking community alive. Elise is actually from one of these competitions, which it ended up winning. You can take my anecdotal evidence on 64's presence even now. The game is 28 years old, and as I've already mentioned, before my time. But due to the scale of its impact on gaming as a whole, it still found its way into my life. It's strange that I have so much nostalgia for a game a fair bit older than me, but it's simply been a constant part of my growing up, especially through YouTube, watching SMG4 videos, speedruns despite having no clue what half the shit they were doing was, and playing the game on my dad's sketchy setup are memories I'll never forget. I owe a lot to this game and hope I've done it justice in trying to show you why it's so special. Thanks for watching the video to the end. You'll notice this one is a fair bit longer than the last one, but I just felt this game and its impact deserved more than a quick look. Hope you stick around to see more content from me and the rest of the guys.